As of today, the votes for the Tier 5 skin for the next Odyssey are open. The 3 finalists are Jingwei, Medusa, and Ullr. This video primarily serves to inform you about this, so you can make your vote. The link will be down below. But also to talk a little bit about the 3 skin options, what they offer, what the ups and downs are, and, well, maybe which one I would vote for in the end. I also have some additional, kind of important info on one of the skins and how it works. We'll go into detail when we talk about that skin, as that wasn't originally stated in the description. It's still not fully stated in the description as of now. Maybe it will be changed later down the road. This year's Odyssey theme is Elemental. With the 3 gods that I mentioned, it should be obvious that the final role is Hunters. Generally speaking, all 3 skins follow a similar idea, where there's different elemental stances, one fire, one ice, one poison, or whatever, depending on which character specifically you're talking about. What's different between the 3 skins is that some have less drastic variations and in return for that switch more often, whereas others have more drastic variations. The first god is Jingwei. Her elemental crystal tier 5 has 4 different forms. The first one being fire, the second one ice, the third one earth or stone, and the fourth one lightning. The lightning one is purple, the earth one is kinda greenish, what the ice and fire ones are should be obvious. The bolts of her basic attack seem to differ in every single form, as she has different weapons with different colored particles. It is worth noting that her lightning form looks somewhat similar to her Storm Raven tier 2 skin. There's some differences obviously with those crystals, but the general theme seems to follow a similar line, only that is purple in this case. Overall, this skin probably changes the least about the base model of the character. An individual one of her elemental skins could pass as a tier 2 if there weren't different visual effects as well. I do assume that especially the tornado will differ depending on which form you're in though, so that would obviously scale it up to a tier 3, and what makes it a tier 5 are the 4 different forms. Because the changes are relatively minor, she still has her normal armor and her normal face, just with some added crystals basically. She does have the chance to transform a lot more often than the other tier 5s. She transforms every time she gets in air, which means she transforms every time she flies from base or she uses her ultimate. And yes, this is confirmed by Harris Ajax, so we know that she will transform quite often compared to the other 2 skins. Different from some other tier 2s, specifically the Anubis from last year, you will definitely be able to see her stance change from the back as well. You change color overall, she changes her hair color too, so you will definitely be able to differ between the stances, and it's not just for the enemies. This, by the way, applies for all tier 5 skins of this year, so all of them will have recognizable stages from the back too. The next one is Medusa. The changes to Medusa overall are somewhat similar to those of Jingwei. Her 4 forms follow the same scheme. We have a fire, ice, lightning, and the last one I think is supposed to be earth, so it does look kind of poison-ish as well, so it's probably a bit of both. And they all kinda have the same color change to them from the back and have like minor details that are changed all the skins on top of that. I would say those details are bigger than in the case of Jingwei though, simply because with Jingwei it's always just the crystals changing color and not the armor or the body in itself changing. With Medusa, there are actually various variations between all the forms. For example, the first form has kind of a skull-like face mask rather. It has orange pointy spikes all over her tail and over her bow. It has some bigger bracers basically, and has some chains around her waist, which not all of the skin forms have. It also has some more scaly design around the bottom of the skin. Then for the ice one, it has more spiky spikes on the back and has a kind of frozen bow, but the tail itself is very smooth, it's like segments. Then the stone one has more like flat spikes on the body and less spikes as well, and those are on the bow too. The masks here differ as well. The ice one does have a pretty unrecognizable mask, whereas the earth poison one is kind of closer to the first mask again, but not really a skull, more like a fanged animal face. And then the lightning one has lightning bolts all over and kind of conductors on the body where the lightning comes from, as well as a different chain set around her stomach instead, and an entirely different helmet too, which completely covers the face and makes her look more like a phantom or something. Ability-wise, I'm expecting similar changes to Jingwei, though I do think that they will look a little more impressive on Medusa. This is down to the fact that her abilities in general just cover larger areas. For example, the 2 could look really nice on her fire skin, just covering the enemies in a cone of fire, or the ultimate could look really cool in her ice form, or her electric form even, just covering this huge area in ice or in thunderbolts or whatever. It is worth mentioning that you will see the stages less though, simply because she changes stance every time you use your ult. With Medusa you do use your ult quite frequently, but not that often, not as often as Jingwei would fly somewhere. As such, you will see the stances longer, but less often, and if you get stuck in a stance that you don't like as much, you have to stay there for quite a while before you can change again if you want to use your ult reasonably. The last skin is Elementalist Ullr. This one actually did not have much of a description in the beginning. Since then, the description in the survey has been updated. If you voted very early, you're kinda unlucky because you can't change your vote anymore, and if you wanted to vote for Ullr now, that's impossible to do. The description has been updated, but it still doesn't fully cover what the Ullr skin does exactly. It says that you will stay in the one stage early on and then change later, but it doesn't say the specific values, the specific numbers when this happens. When I tweeted out that the skin looks like you would only have the first stage on level 1 and then not again, Harris Ajax actually gave me a more detailed response. He said you will remain in the normal Elementalist form till level 10, so you keep the first stage till level 10, and for that time you will have probably those arms, and you will have your weapons change from either stance. So in the fire stance you will have the fire weapons or melee stance, whereas the range stance will have a frost bow. Then on level 10, you go full on elemental. So from level 10 on, you will see the fire skin or the ice skin. I personally think this is a lot cooler because I think that the elementalist skin, the first part of the skin, already looks pretty detailed and is very interesting in itself because it kind of combines the other 2 skins and a default Ullr skin into one skin. And it looks really cool, and I think having this transition throughout the game feels a lot nicer, and this is something that we did have on the previous skins from the previous years with Thanatos, with Anubis, which would gradually transform into their higher stages. I originally wasn't all too sold on the Ullr skin because I thought it would only have those 2 stances after the first level. Knowing that it actually has 3 stances throughout the game pushes it up quite a fair bit for me. What's worth pointing out here is that the skins also have very strong variation between them. They look very different. They obviously keep some details to kind of show that they stay together. The Elementalist sign on his belt, for example, stays there. But overall, the skins have completely different design. He gets those horns in the fire form and those spikes all over his body, whereas the ice form is just much more focused on having this ice shards pointing out from his body. And I think both variations here look really cool, but I also really think that the default version, the one that you see for the first 10 levels, is really cool, with the different elemental colored arms that I think change with the stances, and his overall default look that in itself is also pretty cool. Maybe has a bit of this Avatar style for those people who are interested in it. The detail that I really like on this one is especially the face, which turns from this demonic horn style to this helmet archer style, whatever you want to call it, and I think that looks really, really cool. So, which skin will I vote for, or which skin would I recommend voting for? I think this year it's a lot closer than in the last years. In the past we had some very questionable skins that made it into the final round. This year we can't even see the other ideas that didn't make it through, unfortunately. But because of that, we kinda can just look in between those 3, look at the differences, and say which one we like best. I personally believe that there's good reason to vote for every single one of these skins if you like it. They all have their own perks, they all have their own benefits that the others don't have, and as such, I find it very hard to decide, even for myself. I would say I'm slightly biased to Medusa because I usually play Medusa and it's my favorite god out of the 3. But at the same time, I think the Ullr concept is really, really cool as well, and I would not mind voting for that at all either. At the same time, the Jingwei concept, while I like it the least because the changes are a little smaller, is really cool as well because it allows you to change between the stances a lot more often, between all 4 stances compared to Ullr's stances, which are only 2. I kind of think that the Ullr skin also has the capability to become somewhat of a less than tier 5 skin if the first stance is taken away, which the other 2 skins don't really offer, but that's probably out of discussion here. As such, I haven't decided yet. I don't know what I will vote for, and it might just end up being a non-vote just to see which one wins without my vote. But I will tell you just to go for the one you like the most, maybe the god you play the most, because I think all of those concepts at least are really well thought out, and how they look in game is another question altogether. With that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some more insight on the 3 skins. If you're not subscribed yet, feel free to click the sub button and maybe the bell. It really helps me out. See you for the next one tomorrow. Duke Sloth, out.